Madam Secretary, please start the meeting.
Will the members of the public please take their seats? Chair, the meeting is now being recorded.
Thank you. I would like to call the regular meeting of October 10th, 2022 to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Will the secretary please call roll?
Commissioner Aldereti,
Here.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Here.
Commissioner Morrissey, Commissioner Ramos,
Present.
Commissioner Wu,
Here.
Vice Chair Calderon,
Present.
Chair Pham.
Here.
Chair quorum has been reached at 5:39 with Commissioner Morrissey absent, Commissioner Aldereti and Commissioner Ramos here via virtual.
Thank you. Before we begin, I would like to remind my fellow commissioners to turn your microphone on when speaking and off when not speaking. And when speaking, please place the microphone about 4 inches away from you. Thank you. Members of the public may attend planning commission meetings in person or virtually via Zoom. I now invite the commission secretary to describe the way the public can access and participate in this meeting.
This meeting is being live streamed via our portal, www.santa-ana.primegov.com/public/portal, and to YouTube, www.youtube.com/City of Santa Ana videos. If you would like to provide a public comment, you may do so in the following ways. Join the meeting via Zoom. Enter meeting ID 883-901-14882. When the item you would like to comment on is being discussed, select the hand icon to let us know you would like to speak. You will be called upon by the name you entered. You can also join the meeting by calling 669-900-6833. Enter meeting ID 883-901-14882. When the item you would like to comment on is being discussed, press *9 to let us know you would like to speak. You will be called upon by the last 3 digits of your phone number. After you are called upon, you may press *6 to unmute yourself. For those who are attending this meeting in person and would like to provide public comment, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. All speakers will have 3 minutes to speak. I will alert you when your time is up.
Thank you. Moving on to public comments on non-agenda items. Madam Secretary, does anyone wish to speak?
If you are attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on non-agenda items, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. If you are participating via Zoom and would like to comment on non-agenda items, please select the hand icon and unmute yourself. If you are calling in and would like to comment on non-agenda items, please dial *9 and then *6 to unmute yourself. I will wait a few seconds. Chair, we do not have any speakers.
Thank you. Moving on to the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve item A, minutes from September 26, 2022, and item B, excuse absences?
I move. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ramos and second by Commissioner McLaughlin. Secretary, Madam Secretary.
No, I
please-
move.
Apologize. Motion by Commissioner Wu and a second by Commissioner McLaughlin. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Commissioner Aldereti,
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramos,
Aye.
Commissioner Wu,
Aye.
Vice Chair Calderon,
Aye.
Chair Pham.
Aye.
Motion approved by majority with Commission Member Morrissey absent.
That concludes the consent calendar. Moving on to the business calendar. I will now review the process for the public hearing so that everyone knows what to expect. Staff will provide a presentation and answer questions from the commission. The public hearing will then be open. The applicant will be given the opportunity to speak, limited to 15 minutes. Members of the public will be given the opportunity to comment, limited to 3 minutes. The applicant will be given the opportunity to respond to comments made by the public, limited to 5 minutes. The public hearing will then be closed. Discussion will return to the commission with formal action taken to approve, conditionally approve, deny, or continue review of the application. Please consider the following suggestion when organizing your comments. Please state your name and address, which is voluntary. State whether you support, oppose, or are neutral to the proposal. Your statement should include all pertinent facts within your knowledge. Avoid gossip, emotion, and repetition. A clear and concise and non-repetitive argument is most effective. Now, this is the time and place for public hearing on item number 1, site plan review number 2022-04, located at 922 South Birch Street. Please note, decisions on this matter is final unless appealed within 10 calendar days by any interested individual or party. Before we begin, do any of the commissioners have anything they wish to disclose in regard to this item? Seeing no disclosure, Pedro Gomez will now provide a brief presentation.
Good evening, Chair and fellow commissioners. The first item on tonight's agenda is a request to allow a residential addition and exterior alterations to an existing single-family residence and accessory dwelling unit, as well as a new two-car detached garage for the property addresses 922 and 922.5 South Birch Street. The property is located along South Birch Street, north of the South Birch Street and West McFadden Avenue intersection within the Henniger Park neighborhood. The property has a general plan designation of LR7 and a zoning designation of Henniger Park Specific Development, or SD40. Property is surrounded by single-family residences on all sides. The next couple of slides show the photos of the existing single-family residence and of the site conditions. This is along the front elevation or the east elevation. And then these are photos of the side elevation and of the rear. The applicant proposes to expand an existing 797 square foot residence by approximately 749 square feet in order to accommodate a larger living room area, larger bedrooms, bathrooms, and a laundry area. The residence also the residence would also be improved with a new front porch, a new back porch, and a new pergola cover along the side yard area. The overall scope of work includes reconstructing and expanding an existing 372 square foot accessory dwelling unit by approximately 464 square feet to accommodate 2 bedrooms, a larger living room, bathroom, and kitchen. The applicant also proposes to construct a new detached two-car garage, 440 square feet in size, to be located towards the rear of the property adjacent to an existing rear alley. Lastly, the site would be improved by removing existing chain link fencing, the demolition of an existing patio cover, shed, demolition of an existing laundry room, and the installation of new landscaping to include turf, trees, and shrubs. These next couple of slides show the existing site plan, the proposed site plan, the existing floor plan, proposed floor plan, and then the proposed elevations. Here on this slide, we have the existing site plan. You can see that this is Birch Street here towards the east. We have the existing single-family home, existing accessory dwelling unit, and the shed. And then here we have the proposed site plan. The area of the addition would be towards the front of the property. So this is the area of the addition of the single-family residence, the area of the addition of the accessory dwelling unit, and then the new two-car detached garage. Here we have the existing floor plan. And then the proposed floor plan, again, the area of the addition towards the front. And then you can see the new porch area and then the new pergola area on the side yard. These next couple of slides show the proposed elevations of the single family residence. The overall architectural style is proposed to be consistent with the new residential addition, which is proposed and designed as a craftsman architectural style. The new residential design would feature a low-pitched roof, a front gabled roof design with a full-width, broad front entry porch. The roof is proposed to be clad in composition asphalt shingles, while the rest of the residence is proposed to be clad in a combination of wood lap siding and wood shingle exteriors at the gable ends. The residence would also feature broad open eaves and decorative attic vents and exposed structural members such as rafter tails and e-braces. So this is the side or north elevation, and then the side and south elevation. The proposed ADU addition and the detached garage would feature the same siding design as the residence, including composition roof, the wood lap siding, the wood shingles, and the decorative attic vents and wood windows. The project site is located within the boundaries of the Henniger Park neighborhood and SD40. As detailed in SD40 and the Henniger Park architectural design guidelines, all new construction is subject to Planning Commission site plan review process. The Planning Commission approval is required for all construction of new residential units, residential additions, and new accessory structures. The Henniger Park design guidelines apply to all new development projects and all properties within Henniger Park that have been determined to be eligible or are listed in the Santa Ana Register of Historical Properties. These are properties that are listed in the Appendix A of the Henniger Park Architectural Design Guidelines. The SD40 and the design guidelines note that properties not listed on the register or identified on Appendix A of the Henniger Park Design Guidelines are subject to review of the Planning Commission for conformance with the City of Santa Ana Design Guidelines. This subject property is neither listed nor eligible for listing on the Santa Ana Register pursuant to Appendix A. Therefore, the planning staff review for the project has to be in compliance with the Santa Ana City Design Guidelines and SD40 development standards. Staff determined that the project meets all the required SD40 development standards, including but not limited to the lot coverage, height, setbacks. In addition, the applicant has adopted an architectural design identified as appropriate within the Henniger Park Design Guidelines and the City of Santa Ana Design Guidelines, which is the Craftsman architectural style. As required by Chapter 6 of the Santa Ana City Design Guidelines, the modifications and detached garage are proposed to be compatible in size, scale, massing, and design to the nearby homes and neighborhood. The proposed work maintains the architectural standards compatible with the existing architecture character of the Henniger Park neighborhood and is designed to include architecturally appropriate exterior materials, gable treatments, and architectural massing. The overall features and materials would be architecturally compatible with the guidelines as they include high quality materials and will ensure that the resident ages well for the duration of the building's lifetime. Pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, the project is exempt from further review pursuant to Section 15301 or Class 1 for existing facilities. Based on the analysis, Notice of Exemption Environmental Review number 2022-85 will be filed for this project. There is no fiscal impacts associated with this project. And then with that, staff concludes the presentation and recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving site plan review number 2022-4 as conditioned.
Thank you, Pedro. Does the commission have any questions? Commissioner Alderete?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a couple of questions. The first one is the current, I guess I would call that second living space, the ADU, is that currently permitted?
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, that ADU is currently permitted.
Was that a garage before?
It was most likely a garage that was converted into a two-car, or excuse me, an ADU.
Okay. And then, so the materials on the outside of the house, that'll be, is it all entirely wood? And what I mean about that is around the sides of the home, both the ADU and the home?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. I'll just say I like seeing the two-car garage because that'll probably help with parking in the neighborhood. That's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Alderete. Commissioner McLaughlin?
I've got a couple of questions. So the garage, is that facing out on the alley, or is that going to be where they're going to have to come in the front, the current way they come in to the property, and then around the house and into the garage?
I have the proposed site plan up on the screen, Commissioner, and it's a side entrance. There's existing gate, and the two-car garage is going to be kind of side-loaded. So it won't have a direct face to the alley, but it will have access to a driveway that's proposed.
Well, the reason why I'm asking is because I drove past the house just recently, and first thing that came to mind was there were 4 cars on the front lawn. So if they're going to be doing landscaping and things like that to clean it up, where are the other 2 cars going to go? If you've got the garage and you've got 2 cars that are in the driveway, unless they expect to put them all in tandem in the driveway.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think I understood the question. There is a 2-car garage here, so 440 square feet, which would accommodate 2 cars. This driveway would accommodate 2 cars. And there's an existing driveway along the front, as you mentioned, that could accommodate additional cars. So as proposed, there's at least a minimum 5 parking spaces on the site.
So they're coming in from Birch, they're going along the side of the house, and then they're going to park in the garage that happens to be on the alley. That's basically it. That's so it's in tandem with the cars coming down the driveway and a 2-car garage.
I guess I'm not understanding the question, Commissioner. Do you have a concern about how the garage is accessed?
I have a concern that there's more cars than there is garage and driveway.
The site is parked to our requirements, so we cannot ask for additional parking that's not.
Okay.
So, I mean, they're providing 4 cars. Our code requires 4 parking spaces, 2 enclosed and 2 in a driveway
Okay.
for a single family home as a size. And most of the ADUs in the city of Santa Ana are exempt from providing parking. So the 4 parking spaces that are proposed towards the back and the existing driveway meets or exceeds our parking requirements for this type of home.
Okay.
So where the drawing of the car, is there still a carport there as well?
Are you referring to this area,
Yes.
Commissioner?
No
Yeah.
carport there now.
I don't believe there's a carport there now.
There's no carport there now.
Let me see. This is tough to see because it doesn't show that area, but there's no carport in the driveway.
Right.
Okay, so the existing unit is being torn down to the ground? Or they're just adding to it?
To staff's understanding, they're adding to it. They're keeping the existing framing for partial of the existing house and existing foundation as well, and then expanding towards the front. We do have the project designer here available today if there's any specific questions about the construction methods.
Yeah, and I just want to be clear because I shared some of the concerns that Commissioner McLaughlin did. So it sounds like the garage access for the 2-car and the parking area is through the alley. Right. So the car driveway at the front of the house does not go all the way to the back.
That's correct.
Okay. Great. And how many bedroom is it going to be?
They're proposing to have, looks like 2 bedrooms. 2 bedrooms.
And how many bathroom,
Proposing to have 2 bathrooms.
including the ADU?
The ADU has separate bedrooms and bathrooms. This is just a single family residence footprint.
Okay. And is the electricity and the plumbing going to be upgraded?
It may be needed to be upgraded. This is in 1909, I believe.
Right.
I forget the exact date. So chances are that they have upgraded utilities. It's probably unlikely. So they'll need to comply with all building code requirements at the time.
Including sewage too?
I wouldn't know about sewage, but that's at the time of the building plan check process where our staff reviews to ensure that all utilities and connections are up to date. And if it needs to be updated, we'll require them to be updated.
Because of the data, the housing, any termite infestation is going to be mitigated, right? Before.
Your question was if there's any termite infestation, would it be
No, yeah,
remediated?
if during the construction stage, you guys would see that, right?
Sure, if there's, I mean, during the process of construction, you start opening up walls. If there's a need for any sort of remediation, that's part of the inspection process. Our staff and building inspectors will let the contractors know and the property owner know of any sort of remediation that needs to be done.
And are these windows going to be energy efficient?
Yes.
Guess that's what I have for now.
Thank you, Commissioner Wu. Commissioner Ramos, do you have any question for Pedro?
Yes, I do. Thank you. So my question to staff is, or more of a request. Can you please remind us of any state legislation that would kind of oversee these type of additions and what the purview of the Planning Commission is, and what we can or can't request based off state laws?
Thank you, Commissioner. I think that the state laws that you may be referring to are in regards to accessory dwelling units. Per the accessory dwelling unit standards, the city cannot impose any additional review process, and all review process has to be ministerially. So really the purpose of including the accessory dwelling unit is for a reference. However, the Hettinger Park SD 40 does have specific language that calls out additions to single-family residences and or accessory structures to be reviewed by the Planning Commission. So really the purview of the Planning Commission tonight is the addition to the existing single-family residence and then the detached garage.
Great, thank you for that, Pedro. And yeah, and from what I've heard so far and looking at the visual here, I think it looks good, and I'm really happy that they are adding a 2-car garage. I think that will help ensure that there is enough parking for the tenants at this address. So those are all my questions and comments for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chair, do you have any comments, questions?
Actually, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
And then just a comment or a question for myself. Is it typical within the lots adjacent to this lot that the garages are accessed via the alley?
Thank you, Chair. Was a question if it's typical of access. Let's see if maybe the site plan can show it's a little small. I don't know what the percentage of those properties have a rear loaded garage, but the alleyway does provide for an access to a garage. So the option's there for a property owner.
Just based on the view of Google, there are a number of properties that actually access off of the alley.
Right. That's what it looks like to me too. And then I'm assuming for the parking that would have been required for the ADU is within half a mile from public transit, right? So then you wouldn't need to account for parking for the ADU.
Correct.
And our threshold for a single family residence to provide 2-car parking, how many bedroom would that be?
I believe it's either 4 or 5, but this one's well under that. It's providing 2 bedrooms.
Good. That's my comments. Madam Secretary, have we received any written communications, or is there a member of the public that would like to comment on this item?
We have received written communication. We received 1 comment prior to the 4 o'clock deadline. That comment has been distributed to the commission and has been posted on the website.
Thank you. The public hearing is now open. Would the applicant like to speak on this matter? It looks like the applicant is not present. I know that there is the.
Actually, we have the applicant designer here on representing the property owner. If they'd like to answer any questions.
Okay. Does the commission have any? Okay, so we'll move along. We'll now take comments from the public. Madam Secretary, do we have any members of the public present that would like to comment?
If you are attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on this item, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. If you are participating via Zoom and would like to comment on this item, please select the hand icon and unmute yourself. If you are calling in and would like to comment on this item, please dial *9 and press *6 to unmute yourself. I will wait a few seconds. Chair, we do not have any speakers.
Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion and is there a second?
I'll motion to approve site plan review number 2022-04 as condition.
Second, this is Commissioner Alderete.
Thank you. We have a motion by Vice Chair Calderon and a second by Commissioner Alderete. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Commissioner Alderete,
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos,
Yes.
Commissioner Wu,
Yes.
Vice Chair Calderon,
Aye.
Chair Pham.
Aye,
Motion approved by majority vote with Commissioner Morrissey absent.
thank you. Now, this is the time and place for public hearing on item number 2, amendment application number 2022-01 and conditional use permit number 2022-14 located at 1700, 1720, and 1740 East Gary Avenue. Please note, decisions on this matter is final unless appealed within 10 calendar days by any interested individual or party. Before we begin, do any of the commissioners have anything they wish to disclose in regards to this item? Seeing no disclosure, Ms. Fabiola Milliker will now provide a brief presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Chair and Planning Commissioners. Today, I will be providing a presentation and an item that was continued from August 22nd. The project is Gary Avenue Business Park. Is an application to amendment application number 2022-01 and conditional use permit number 2022-14. The project is located at 1700, 1720, and 1740 is Gary Avenue on Ward 4. The applicant is Rod Mitchell, representing Green Lot Partners, who's the property owner, and is requesting approval of 2 entitlements for Gary Avenue Business Park to construct a 91,500 square foot industrial structure. And staff is recommending approval of the conditional use permit as condition, and recommends that also that the Planning Commission recommends approval to the City Council of the zone change as well. The location and zoning is the project is located in the general plan land use designation Industrial Flex 3. The zoning is currently professional, and the surrounding land uses to the north are professional offices. To the south is a vacant lot. East, professional offices, and to the west is the 55 freeway. There's an existing site photo of the project site, which is currently developed with 3 buildings that are being proposed to be demolished. And the total square footage of all those 3 buildings is 105,558 square feet. Project description includes rezoning the property from professional to light industrial M1, to demolish the 3 industrial office buildings that were constructed between 1972 and 1974, and containing approximately 105,000 square feet. Construct a new 91,500 square foot industrial building designed for 2 tenants and for distribution purposes, and construct site improvements, including new parking, paving, landscape, and street improvements. So this is a rendering of the building that will be replacing what's there right now. And as I said, those buildings that are existing were constructed back in the 1970s. So this will kind of build something new into the area. The applicant, as described before, is proposing a warehouse use that is typically allowed by right in the M1 zone, but is also proposing to have a distribution which requires a conditional use permit. So last time during the August 22nd, 22 Planning Commission public hearing, the adjacent property owner brought concerns about truck traffic coming through here, which is an easement that is shared by the properties. They opposed to having trucks coming through here. So the applicant has proposed to put 2 gates, one here and one here, to avoid trucks coming through, to address the concerns brought up by the adjacent property owners located at 1800 and 1820 East Gary. Additionally, since then, this item was continued by the Planning Commission as a result of the opposition from the property owners adjacent to the site, and subsequently was again continued one more time till today. Since then, since the August 22nd public hearing, there have been other issues brought up to the attention of staff, issues related to easements that are shared in some of between the properties. Currently, right now, it's not shown in this site plan. There are a series of easements that are located here where this new building is going to be is being proposed. And one easement that crosses around this area, which is a drainage easement. All the easements that are here where the building is going to be built are going to be abandoned. And the existing drainage issue that crosses property line will also be abandoned as the new development is required to contain all water runoff on site. And as such, no longer needs that drainage. So the applicant has proposed to abandon all drainage, all easements and self-contain his development, the proposed development within its own site. So this is what the gates will look like. This will be a barrier to prevent trucks going through that easement shared by the properties. This is the floor plan. It's basically could be is 2 tenant spaces right now, A and B. It's a total of 91,500 square feet. It provides 10 loading ducts, and here, there's a landscape planter to make sure, kind of incentivized to have the 2 tenants rather than 1. This is the landscape plan. Again, this is the easement that where those gates will be located at to prevent traffic of trucks going through. So the elevations. So the proposed M1 designation is consistent with the new general plan line use designation Flex 3. The project conforms with all development standards and exceeds the parking requirements. It proposes more parking than required by the zoning code. The plan also is designed to reduce impacts to surrounding properties, which they initially had placed the loading docks to the front. Now they have put them down to the back towards facing the 55 freeway. So it will not be as aesthetically impactful. And the building has been designed for a flexible range of industrial uses, including distribution, warehousing, manufacturing, and research and development. As stated before, the conditional use permit is required to allow an operation as a distribution center. The conditional use permit is consistent with the various goals and policies of the general plan, including goals in the land use number 2 and land use 3, encouraging a balance of land uses and compatibility of uses, as well as Appendix A to the general plan land use. Appendix A is the interim development standards that were adopted as part of the general plan. This project was subject to the Sunshine Ordinance requirements to hold 2 public community meetings. Those Sunshine meetings were held in July 8, 2021 and October 5th, 2021. As a result of the initial meeting, the site plan was designed to orient those loading docks away from adjacent properties, and public notifications were posted, published, and mailed in accordance to state regulations. The project is exempt from CEQA. This type of exemption analysis evaluates whether the potential environmental impacts of the proposed demolition of 3 office buildings and construction of a new 91,500 square foot light industrial warehousing building that would accommodate 2 tenants are addressed in the City of Santa Ana General Plan update final recirculated program environmental impact report. Having said that, there were technical studies that were prepared for the proposed project. Those included noise, air quality, as well as looking at the traffic impacts. There are no fiscal impacts associated with this project. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt resolution for the CUP number 2022-14 as condition, and recommends that City Council adopt an ordinance approving the amendment number 2022-01. The city also received 3 comment letters that were forward to the Planning Commission for your review and consideration. And that concludes the staff presentation. We have the applicant here present tonight, as well as the engineer for the project as well.
Thank you, Fabiola. Does the commission have any questions? Commissioner Alderete?
I have no questions.
Commissioner McLaughlin?
None at the moment.
Commissioner Ramos?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner Wu?
None?
Vice Chair?
No questions.
And for myself, the agreement between the easement, has that been settled between the applicant and the neighboring property in terms of abandoning the easement and self-contained drainage?
Right. The applicant has proposed to again address the concerns that were brought up about not allowing traffic of trucks going through that easement between the 2 properties. Additionally, they are abandoning all easements, well, the ones that are on their property, as well as the drainage easement. The applicant, as well as the adjacent property owner, have been discussing additional conditions that the adjacent property owner would like to see, including a negative easement that is being proposed, which means that the property owner will still own the land, but will not have any use of it. But at this point, that is in terms of containing the development within the project site, the development is being contained within the project site.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, have we received any written communication, or is there a member of the public that would like to comment on this item?
As Fabiola had mentioned, we had received written communication. We received 3 comments prior to the 4 o'clock deadline, and those comments have been distributed to the commission as well as posted on the website.
Thank you. The public hearing is now open. Would the applicant like to speak on the matter?
Good evening, Rob Mitchell, Green Law Partners. Thanks again for your time this evening and for the time last time when you listened to this agenda item come in front of you. I would like just to say, since the last time that we met here, I've done every single thing that my neighboring property owner asked in regards to putting up. Last time you remember here, we were putting up the gates, the truck was going to come in. We did that. We've self-contained our property into having all the drainage go onto our property, even the easement area, which we're going to have a perpetual easement on that, but they're going to be using the parking spaces for their use. I'm still draining that onto our property. And then one of the things that I wasn't going to do, because I felt that it was not necessary, was this negative easement that they were in demand of, to be able to have a negative easement on the property that would not allow for semi trucks to be able to be traveling through that area. And I wanted to bring this to a head to move forward with the development. So I since have agreed to that negative easement that we are in the midst of drafting right now for their review, to go forward to be able to get it done. So I've been fully compliant with everything that they've asked for in regards to drainage, regards to the trucks, everything that's been done for what we're building on the site above and beyond which I feel is adequately necessary for this project. I have our engineer here tonight from Kimberly Horn to answer any questions you guys potentially have about the easement. I was a little bit confused by my conversation I had earlier with Liam. I thought everything was A-okay and everything was behind us, but obviously to this point, I guess it's not. But from my standpoint as being the developer, I don't know what else, but I can do to be able to satisfy that our development is going to be compliant with what the overall general plan scope of what the vision of the city of Santa Ana is, which I'm going to be bringing forward through this development. And I'm here tonight to answer any other questions. And our engineer, if you have questions about drainage or anything else that you have of me to ask right now, I'm happy to answer it.
Thank you. Does the commissioner have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Alderete?
No comments, no questions.
Thank you. Commissioner McLaughlin?
No comments at this time.
Commissioner Ramos?
No comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Wu?
I think you've done and then responded.
Thank you.
Vice Chair?
No questions or comments.
No comments from myself either. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for your presentation. Madam Secretary, have we received any written communication or is there a member of the public that would like to comment on this item?
If you are attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on this item, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. If you are participating via Zoom and would like to comment on this item, please select the hand icon and unmute yourself. If you are calling in and would like to comment on this item, please dial *9 and press *6 to unmute yourself. I will wait a few seconds. So we have one additional commenter virtually, but I believe there's also public commenters in the public that want to speak.
Thank you. Yes, it looks like we have a few public comments slips. The first person would be Melinda Cathy.
If you don't mind, I'd like to address the council first. I'm the president of the Gary Plaza Office Park Association.
Sorry, excuse me. It is Miss Melinda.
Melinda's here. She's the association's attorney. If I make any misstatements, then she can correct it. And please don't start my time right now while we're discussing who's going to speak first.
I think if she's not going to speak, then we'll disregard this slip.
She will be speaking.
Then I
yes.
think I should let her
You
speak
want her to
first.
speak first?
Thank you.
Thank you, Melinda.
Right.
Yes, sir. I have filled out 4 cards. I am the president of the association.
Well,
I'm also the president of a business in Santa Ana, Unicorn Rental Property Management. I'm also the trustee of another entity registered to do business in the city of Santa Ana. I have brought all of my business licenses. I have the right to speak on behalf of each
Mr.
entity.
Stevens, may I interrupt you? You have the right to speak. However, your slip came in behind Ms. Melinda. All I'm doing is following protocol of the slip that came in first.
Oh, Melinda, is that correct?
That's fine. So your time is limited to 3 minutes. I know that you submitted multiple slips, but you're more than entitled to speak within the 3 minutes.
Yes, each of my entities will take their allotted time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service to the community. My name is William Stevens. I'm speaking to you on behalf of the Gary Plaza Office Park Association right now. I've been on the board for approximately 20 years, and I'm currently the president of the association. There are 84 office condos and approximately 90 businesses in our 2 office buildings, 1800 and 1820 East Gary. I thank you for asking staff about the status of the easements. We do not currently have a definitive settlement regarding the easements. The easements crisscross the development. I provided a handout for all of the members and I emailed it and brought in a hard copy. I think that they've been mentioned that the easement is over in this kind of area. My diagram shows that our easement covers 40% of the developer's property. It crisscrosses the property. It's not just over on one boundary. Please look at your diagrams if you have them. The developer's working drawings indicate demolition of an existing professional office park currently occupied by approximately 126 white-collar businesses. These businesses are likely to relocate, possibly to other cities. While fewer professional office units might seem advantageous to the neighboring building, many of our unit owners lease out their units and we could potentially ask a higher rent. Nevertheless, many people feel that being located next to a distribution warehouse or an industrial building will be detrimental and make our building undesirable. So for people that are leasing out offices, and they're going to tear down the exact same type of businesses, we're not saying, hooray, all your tenants are going to come over to us. We're saying, oh no, everybody's going to flee our building because nobody's going to want to be around all these trucks. As noted at a previous commission hearing, there are no other situations in the city of Santa Ana where a distribution warehouse is located next to a professional office building. The working drawings indicate constructing a warehouse which covers the easement and prohibits the access to it, our ingress and our egress rights. The easement was recorded on October 7th, 1977. It's a recorded document. The developer knew of this easement when he purchased the property. It is actively used today. I personally use the easement at least 4 times every day. I come to work, I go out to lunch, I come back from lunch, and I go home. The amendment and CUP.
Mr. Stevens, your 3 minutes are up.
Thank you. I'd now like to speak to you as the president of Unicorn Rental Property
Mr.
Management.
Stevens,
No.
each speaker is
I
given 3
am a
minutes to
business
speak.
owner in the city of Santa Ana.
Mr.
I am
Stevens.
entitled to
Miss-
3 minutes. I pay my taxes. I
Sir.
represent multiple parties.
Sir, you've given the opportunity to speak.
I appreciate you hearing me speak on behalf of the association. I now wish to speak on behalf of my own personal business.
As a chair, he has the right to tell you what's there. And you do not have the right beyond the 3 minutes you were given.
Let me check with my attorney about the Brown Act.
The next speaker, Mr. John Hanna.
Mr. Chairman, commissioners, staff, my name is John Hanna. I'm here to represent the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters, resident of Orange, former resident of Santa Ana. First of all, apologies because I just was asked to come here about 45 minutes before the meeting. An emergency came up, but our request is either to continue this matter for 2 weeks, keep the council session date of November 1st, or to direct the applicant to meet with us. Our issue with this is not so much what the last speaker represented. But the issue is is the claim of the staff that it's exempt from CEQA. I'm not sure that's the case because this project is a tilt-up, actually has a kind of unique situation because our workforce is skilled and trained and has a large component of local carpenters who could work on this job. then this is going to be our work on it could reduce the vehicle miles traveled and therefore improve the air quality for this project. I'm not so sure that's the need to, and we've called the applicant. Mr. Mitchell, I apologize, nobody called you, but when our office called your office, they were told that Scott Murray was the person to talk to. And Scott's hasn't returned 2 different calls. So we just need, we need a little more time we'd like to meet with them, talk to them about what the services we can provide that Santa Ana residents can provide that will improve the quality of life and increase, I think, the people in the community's support for this project, because the project will be prioritizing hiring Santa Ana residents, which will have an environmental benefit by reducing the vehicle miles traveled. Distribution centers are important areas of commerce. It's up to you to make the decision on whether this is the right site or not. We're not contesting that. We're just saying that for this project, because of the unique workforce we have, in addition, we have a large market share of tilt-up contractors. We think we could be a good partner in this project.
Speaker, your 3 minutes are up.
So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hannah. Mr. Michael Brown.
My name is Michael Breon. I'm with Sunrise Associates, Sunrise General Contracting Service. That was another company I have. And I represent the HOA. And, you know, I'm going to only speak to some of the questions regarding the easements that are in question here, because I've been working with Greenlaw on that and working with Rob. And Rob has been making the effort, but the timing continues to be delayed, if you will. And then before a planning commission hearing, we have some of it, we have verbiage that we're going to do this, but we don't have the actual documents to review to look at the language of what the deeds and the easements are going to be. One of the concerns that I brought up with Rob was a common use drainage easement that handled parcel 1, 2, and 3. And since then, we've received quitclaim document that's going to abolish their rights for that common easement with parcel 2 and parcel 3 use, which is great. We got that kind of, but currently it's not in the conditions of approval. You know, we've submitted that, and in my letter that I provided, it speaks to that. There is another drainage easement that we've received, and you know, it has to do with having rights for the HOA to be able to drive on their property for a drive aisle, fire access, as well as parking. But this document does not address parking on within the document. So there's a little bit of language on that potential easement, and it's called a drainage easement, which technically maybe that's not really quite the right term. And I haven't spoke with Kimley Horn about that directly, but you know, if we're going to do this, let's get the language right and put it into the conditions of approval for the project. The truck gates, great. You know, the exhibit that was shown, the position points aren't exactly the same locations that an exhibit that I've seen from Rob. One is at the street entry, and then the other one is prior to the parking lot that's on the, call it the southern east portion of their project, which does not limit parking along their drive aisle as well as in that back
Speaker, your
parking
3
lot.
minutes are up.
All right. I do have another run, but
Thank you.
comment. Thank you.
Sorry to come back again, but as I said, I have more issues to discuss and I do have multiple entities to represent.
Again.
If you would please entertain a few more minutes of some information.
Speaker, you've
so that
already
you can
had your
make a
3
proper-
minutes that's been allotted per speaker.
You're done. It's.
I'm
We
sorry.
have one more speaker, it's Ms. Melinda Caitlin. If she
Okay, so
wishes to
you're
speak,
denying
then
you're denying my business to represent their concerns?
I'm not denying your business. We've given you the opportunity to speak within the 3
I
minutes.
appreciate giving the association the
That's it.
opportunity to
That's-
speak, but
that's-
you haven't given my corporation the opportunity to speak.
This issue is mute.
It's not, I have other issues to bring up.
Just if I may interject, Mr. Chair, planning commissioners and members of the public, the city ordinarily places a 3-minute restriction on each individual speaker, regardless of capacity. The 3-minute time limit has been held reasonable by court and consistent with the Brown Act. And so your time limit is limited to 3 minutes per speaker.
And now I'm speaking on behalf of a different entity. So as you have stated, that each entity or
So
individual,
your time limit is
I have
3
an
minutes,
individual
limited to
interest
yourself
as a
regardless of your
corporation.
capacity. The chair is correct.
my corporation is a recognized individual. It most certainly is a recognized individual. If you don't want to hear me, then we've got another issue to address.
Ms.
No,
Melinda, do you wish to speak or are you forfeiting your 3 minutes? There's nothing to
Finish.
discuss beyond what has been stated by our city attorney.
Or you're kind of muffled, hard to understand what you're saying. I think I
I
could have
said
spoken
there's
my
nothing
piece
else
in
to,
less time
there,
than arguing over all of this.
Mr. Stevens, this is the last time I'll make the comment. We've given you the 3 minutes allotted to you as our city attorney has just stated. That is within your right and you have exercised those 3 minutes.
Okay,
This
well,
is the last time
would you
we'll
allow me
discuss-
to speak? And
This
then
is the
you can
last
come
time we'll
after me
discuss.
later
Either you
after
give
the fact
your,
and say, well,
either you
you
step
wanted to
down
talk.
and let your attorney speak or we forfeit the slip and we move on.
well, I don't
Understood?
agree to forfeiting my slips. I turned in 4 slips.
Moving on. Public hearing is now closed. No, sorry. Our
Well,
last
I-
speaker is Ms. Melinda.
This is, my name is Melinda Luthen, and while I understand and appreciate the fact that there was a disagreement with respect to who can speak and who cannot speak, and I'd like for you to pause my time, please, because I'm not speaking on behalf of this, with respect to the project right now. But I would like to make one comment just briefly about the fact that you are intending to forfeit my time because there
Ms.
was some
Kathy,
other
this is
person
in
who was
regards
coming
to
up. And so
this.
I would like to take
this is
my
in
time to
regards-
speak.
No,
So-
this is not an open public comment. This is a comment in regards to this
I
specific
understand that.
project.
Except
Unless
for
you
the
have
fact that
anything-
you threatened to take
Unless
my
there's-
time away,
unless
and I'm
there's
letting you
anything
know
that you'd
that
like to
that's
speak on
not
this matter.
acceptable. Whatever other things you may have said may or may not have been acceptable in accordance with what your attorney has stated. But for you to threaten to forfeit my time, that's not acceptable. If you would please restart the clock.
Ms. Luthen, you'll have, just like anyone else here, 3 minutes to speak on this issue.
Thank you.
I think the chair has made that clear.
Thank you. I want to talk a little bit about, except for now we're at 2 minutes. So I would request that the timer get restarted, please. Thank you. My name is Melinda Luthen. I'm an attorney and I represent the Gary Plaza next door neighbors to the subject property. I think that we need to take a little bit of a step back here and figure out exactly who owns the property that's the subject to these 2 requests for the conditional use permit and the zoning change. There's a packet that is supposed to be filled out by the developer, and we have not seen that. We've made requests to see it. We've not seen it. Among the items on the checklist that the city says that is required are not only owner identification, but also a list of all the easements. And I think part of the problem that may have come about here is perhaps those easements weren't disclosed by the developer. But the point of the matter is that there are easements. They crisscross throughout the subject property. And those easements are owned by my clients and my clients' and the members of the association of that office park. And so for staff to say, oh, those easements are going to be abandoned, the only people who have the capability of abandoning an easement are the people who own the easement. And I can tell you we have 84, I believe it's either 84 or 87 people who all own that easement. Easement is like a thing. It's like a diamond ring. You've got 84 people clutching onto this with white knuckles saying, we're not going to sell it to the developer. And so until or unless that easement gets sold to the developer has no right to build on that property. And the city should not be approving applications. This shouldn't even have come to the planning commission, quite frankly, because the easements were not dealt with. And so they still hold the easement, they still own it, and they're not willing to sell it. And until the developer makes an offer that my clients cannot refuse, then my clients still own that easement. There's no such thing as an abandonment by somebody who doesn't own the easement. And that comes to the same thing with respect to the drainage easement. My clients are not willing to to sell their drainage easement until we have civil engineers who say that the drainage is going to be proper with that big, large building. And that hasn't happened. That's why I think we've kind of put the cart before the horse. So I'm speaking now on behalf of my clients as the stakeholders. They also have issues with respect to being neighbors. I agree with the previous speaker that this is not, that this does have a CEQA implication. There needs to be at least an initial CEQA evaluation. But I would like to say that staff should not be
Speaker,
saying
your 3 minutes are
what my clients are willing to do and what they're not willing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like we have a comment via online. Is that correct?
Amalia, please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Amalia Boli Fuentes. I'm an attorney with Lozo Drury LLP, speaking on behalf of Supporters Alliance for Environmental Responsibility, or SAFER. My comment is in regard to the city's determination that the project is exempt from further CEQA review pursuant to Section 15183 of CEQA. The project is not exempt from CEQA because there are project-specific significant effects peculiar to the project that have not been analyzed, and the project would result in new significant effects not discussed in the city's 2022 General Plan Update EIR. An initial study must be prepared for the project to determine the appropriate level of CEQA review required. We filed written comments earlier today by email, supported by expert consulting firm Soil, Water, Air Protection Enterprise, or SWAPE. The comments first point out that the project's potential air quality impacts were not addressed in the previous General Plan EIR, so these impacts should be modeled using project-specific input parameters. The city should also prepare a screening level health risk assessment to identify and mitigate potential risks of the project's emissions on nearby residential receptors. SWAPE prepared its own screening level assessment and found that the cancer risks from project construction and operation on a sensitive receptor located 200 meters away would exceed air district thresholds. These impacts were not analyzed in the General Plan EIR, therefore additional CEQA review is required. SWAPE also analyzed the project's potential greenhouse gas emissions and the General Plan EIR's assessment of greenhouse gases. SWAPE first found that the General Plan EIR applied outdated thresholds in its assessment of greenhouse gas impacts, and the EIR's conclusion that impacts would be less than significant can therefore not be relied upon. SWAPE prepared an updated air model which demonstrates that impacts would be significant. The city is therefore precluded from relying on the Section 15183 exemption. So for these reasons, SAFER respectfully requests that the Planning Commission deny applications for the project and instead direct city staff to prepare necessary environmental documents under CEQA. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, we do not have any additional speakers.
Thank you. The public hearing is now
At this time,
closed.
I'd like to ask if the council, commission would reconsider, giving me another opportunity to speak on my other entities.
Oh,
Won't take more than 3 minutes.
oh,
Again, the public hearing is now closed. Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Is there a motion or is there a second?
It would be appropriate to allow the applicant to provide any closing rebuttal comments.
The applicant like to respond?
Thank you. I'd like to just say once again, from our side, we've done everything that we say we're going to do. And it is a development that we're moving forward with, and there's our issues that we were working forward with a neighbor. Would address the carpenters. I didn't, and you speak to him, Scott Murray in our office, he moved to Kansas City, so I didn't get the message. I have been in contact on another project of mine with John Tapoy. So I have been in contact with the carpenters. We're willing to sit down with them. That's not something I'm willing to do. I've met with his counterpart on another project and talked to them. So I'm willing to sit down with them. I apologize that in the midst of Scott moving to Kansas City, somehow it didn't get back to me, or I would have returned that phone call. So I don't have any issues with that. And for this particular project, once again, I'm going to like to have your support to move forward. I mean, I've waited the time. We've had the continuance. I've done everything I said I'm going to do. I have the documentation in place. Maybe it's not all the, I's dotted and T's crossed, but we've agreed. I mean, I've agreed to do it and trying to get the documentation going back and forth. It's forthcoming, but hopefully you guys will vote on the agenda item this evening and move forward and give the opportunity to go forward to city council. And that's my request. And that's what I'd like to happen this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, is there a motion or is there a second on this item? Does the commission need more time to?
Well, yeah, I could, this is Commissioner already. I'm ready to make a motion.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Sure. I move that we recommend that the council adopt an ordinance approving amendment application 2022-01 and adopt a resolution approving CUP number 2022-14 as conditioned.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Alderete and a second by Commissioner Ramos. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Commissioner Alderete,
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
aye.
Commissioner Ramos,
Aye.
Commissioner Wu,
Yes.
Vice Chair Calderon,
Aye.
Chair Pham.
Aye.
Motion approved by majority vote with Commissioner Morrissey absent.
Thank you. This concludes the business calendar. Moving on to comments. Is there any comments from staff?
Yes, just want to share with you that historically we have gone dark for the second meeting of November as well as the second meeting of December as they fall near the holidays for Thanksgiving as well as Christmas. Continue with that tradition. We will be going dark for those two meetings. So just want to give you that information ahead of time. The November meeting will fall on November 28th and the December meeting will fall on December 26th. That concludes staff's comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you repeat that again? We will go dark when? For the
November
elections,
28th
right?
and December 26th,
December 26th, we're going dark then.
as well as November 28th.
28th. So those are the only 2 dates.
Correct.
Are there any comments from the commissioners?
As a reminder, pursuant to AB 1234, commissioners can take this opportunity to provide a brief report to their attendance at the APA California 2022 conference that took place on October 1st through October 4th.
Thank you. Yes, I attended the APA California 2022 conference.
I did. I want to thank first staff for making the opportunity for us to be there with other planners and staff from other cities. It was refreshing to talk to people that came from cities of 3,000 or less to 180,000 and large urban city. By the end of the different session and another conference I went to that was sponsored by the Orange County Grant Makers on land equity and inclusion, it came to the conclusion and this astute scientific fact, I'm glad to live in Santa Ana. I'm glad to work with the staff who put in the time and energy into preparing the reports. I'm also glad that we set some really good goals in the general plan and the housing element. Yes, we try to live up to it. We have to meet a lot of things, and the update that you provided us with about the new state regulations and laws was very, very helpful. I didn't find myself lost, but it started making even more sense. Lastly, as I interacted with other planning directors and other staff, particularly those that went to school with our executive director, men, and I was trying to find out some, little detail, could not find a single thing because he's admired and appreciated by his classmates and by fellow people, and which started people scrambling to try to work here, which I am glad. The other thing that I was glad about was the opportunity to meet with staff, not at the senior planning level, but in the neighborhood improvement and I'm just so glad to hear that we're coordinating efforts between the planning part and the neighborhood improvement, because as you know, we lost Melanie recently, who was very good at going out and talking to the public. But now I think that by their coordination and speaking together, we are going to inform our residents, we are going to involve them, and we're going to include their comments into some of our actions where it is necessary. So I thought it was very helpful to go. I hope that we get other opportunities to attend other future meeting. It helps us to understand the full picture. Aside from that, today, while I understand that people are frustrated, I think that we have to allow our chair to direct. I kind of had an urge to say, I'm glad, Chairman Bao, that you were handling the meeting. I think that often we do not think that we seem to think that sometimes we have to be adversarial to get a point instead of taking the time that we have. I mean, we're giving everyone only 3 minutes, the opportunity to say what we need to say and not turn it into something chaotic so that we don't understand what it is that you want. So, and I've learned more from other groups, particularly those that are that I join on the housing part, that a lot of our affordable housing and our movement for equity started a long time ago, back when even I was in school for planning and public administration. So, and on the front lines of the civil rights movement and all that. So I'm glad to see that the roots and the seed is continuing to grow. Does this mean that we're perfect? No. But at least I think in the city, we have an opportunity to be very good. And in that, we just have to kind of learn how to understand and communicate with each other. And I think this planning conference allow me at least to do that. So thank you again.
Thank you, Commissioner Wu. Yeah, I thought the event was really fun. There was a few Disney related events, which I thought was really interesting in terms of design and planning. And my overall general impression was that a lot of cities were understaffed and that they, it's hard with the inundation of new projects, especially with new residential projects and things like that. So I'm glad to meet new people, and it seems like all the planners were very passionate about their craft. So it was very interesting. time.
I knew where to find you because I could have used a drinking partner. I went home instead.
I try to get away when the drinking starts.
I'm so shy, you know?
And that's it. Commissioner Ramos?
Yes, thank you. I just had a request of staff. I'm just wondering if it would be possible to receive the planning commission agendas before Friday. I know for a while when I first came on the commission, I felt like we were receiving them typically the Monday before the meeting. So that was very helpful to me to just be able to review everything within a week. And I think lately I've noticed they're coming in a bit later. So I would just like to ask if and when possible that we receive them a little bit earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramos. Do we have any other comments?
Yeah, this is Commissioner Alderetti. I just wanted to wish everyone a happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Oftentimes the American narrative erases Indigenous people and their contributions to the United States. And so I think it was important today to hear that people got the day off as an important step to sort of combat that erasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner McLaughlin, did you?
Yeah, a couple of things, just as an administrative thing. When we voted on the minutes of the last meeting, did we also, didn't hear we voted on the absenteeism of Mr. Morrissey.
So when the vote had taken place, we voted on the consent items for both items A and B. So that would be the minutes from the September 26th meeting as well as the absences.
Okay, okay. The only thing I'd like to just build on a little bit is Alan was talking about the grant makers event. And I think it was interesting the way they approached it. There was a lot of topics of diversification and land use and things of that nature. It might have been a good thing for the planning department to at least consider maybe one person being there just to learn what a lot of people were trying to understand to begin with on the topics that were being presented, but also to learn what some of the funding agents, be it public or private, how they're approaching the situation too. And I think that was a good learning experience, and it was well attended. There were about 400 people from all around Orange County and such. So if it happens in the future, I would suggest at least somebody. And I think as we go through some of these topics at this point in time, there are going to be more informational meetings being held, and I think it's good for us to represent it. And I'll just say the other thing is it was interesting because when we were in one, Alan and Azuri and I were in one event, and the discussion kept on coming back to, well, Santa Ana, they did something, adaptive reuse. And, they started talking about the different projects that were out of the norm of just a simple process of approving and building. And they were talking about the alternatives that were being addressed in some respect. And I think that was, for all intent and purposes, there was no other discussion other than Santa Ana in that particular thing. So I think that's a good it's a good thing for the city. It's a good thing for what we're doing. And there's a good affirmation in the whole thing. I'd like to see more. That's it.
That adaptive use project was Las Placenta Cinco, which was also highlighted at the American Planning Association California award ceremony as well. Although we were going to have to change the city logo to the city of Flavia or whatever they call it. Yeah. But that was a very good honor.
All right. Seeing no other comments, Chair, Vice Chair? No? Seeing no other comments?
One more question.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
If we were to do some advanced planning, like looking at, one thing we learned at the American Planning Conference was the alignment of different funding from different levels can be put together in a innovation district of some sort. That takes some work with the community planner and a developer that's willing to kind of do that and some planning process for someone to design it. But it seemed possible. And then I was wondering if there's any identification of areas where you might want to do it.
In terms of the innovation district?
Well, as we look at housing, there's a way of mixing housing with development and you know, that creates job in addition to housing and that also integrates culture and art in there and the whole thing. And the opportunity came up in La Pacinta Cinco. Now I'm just kind of looking, well, it's along a transportation tour, or is there a way of like spreading that out in just that little neighborhood?
Actually, there is, and the general plan was designed around that type of a focus in terms of how do we better utilize some of our major corridors and areas of the city where it can accommodate the kind of activities and growth and the mixing of uses that you discussed. So the 5 focus area actually are, in fact, those type of district that will allow for the additional housing, the additional jobs, the additional services, the additional commercial, the additional attractors to our city. So the 5 district were a strategy on how we can do all of that without impacting the rest of the other areas of the city, such as our single family neighborhoods or lower density areas.
All right, thank you. This meeting is adjourned. The next regular meeting will be held on Monday, October 24th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. in City Council chambers. Thank you.